Hey, basketball fans, welcome into NBA Now. I'm your host, Harrison Graham. Was working on some NFL stuff, and then Adrian Wojnarowski, Shams Charania, all the big heads in NBA media dropped the bomb that it looks like James Harden's going to be traded very, very soon. The Rockets actually told him to stay away from practice today, and this actually comes off the heels of Harden saying last night that, look, I don't think it can be fixed. I've given everything to the city and everything to this team, but I don't think it can be fixed. And now James Harden is not going to be a part of the Rockets' future as there is momentum for the 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets, who are both trying to make a push here. But the writing was on the wall when Harden dropped that line last night and just walked away from his press conference. And when you look at what James Harden is as a player, obviously he's still great. Don't focus too much on the numbers this year. He's halfway checked out. He's done with Houston. He's given it his all there, and I don't love the fact that he basically orchestrated several trades during his time there to get players on board, and he still couldn't get over the top. But it's clear at this point that the Rockets need to move on. It is time to officially end this era of Houston Rockets basketball because it didn't work. At least it didn't work to the level that they were hoping to, right? Like, the goal when they brought in Harden and brought in all these guys, Chris Paul, you get guys like Eric Gordon in here, you tried it with Westbrook, was to ultimately win a championship. We'll never know what would have happened had Chris Paul not gotten hurt in that Western Conference Final Series a few years back against the Warriors, but that's history. It's over with. It's time to move on. Harden's out. He wants out. The Rockets need to move forward. They need to get some assets for the future so they can try to rebuild this thing down in Houston. It's time for these two parties to split. So where will Harden be traded any second now? Which team will he be traded to? Let me know in the comments. Obviously, the 76ers and the Nets are the two front runners, but maybe a team emerges at the last second here. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Where will James Harden be traded to? Now, we'll start with the Brooklyn Nets side of this. We'll get to the Sixers in a bit. Look, they've been connected to Harden for a while now. This entire offseason, obviously Kevin Durant is playing there now. And for a little while, it was, well, we don't want to throw Kyrie Irving into a trade. And now you've got this whole thing of where Irving is just disappeared. He's not even playing for the Brooklyn Nets right now. And reportedly, the Nets are basically saying, we'll give you the house to get James Harden in town. And that shouldn't be surprising because, A, he's a great player. B, Kevin Durant's playing like a superstar again, and you get another guy in there to help this squad out, this team can win a championship with or without Kyrie Irving, potentially. Like, it'd be great to have him on board, too, with the Harden trade, but if he's just going to go AWOL and disappear on this Nets team, KD can't do it alone, and now Brooklyn's even more motivated to try and make a trade happen, to team up former teammates in James Harden and Kevin Durant, and continue to groom that roster under first-year head coach Steve Nash in Brooklyn. I think this would be very fascinating. I think it would be very interesting. I will say this, if the Rockets are going to do a trade with Brooklyn, I don't even want Kyrie if I'm Houston. I want all the picks and any young assets they have. Don't give me Kyrie Irving. That's a false pretense to your fan base saying, oh yeah, we're still trying to win now. This team's not winning now. Sorry, John Wall. I know you got stuck in this mess this year, but it's time to rebuild in Houston. Maybe you can flip John Wall at the deadline as well and get some assets for him. We'll just have to wait and see. But this is a trade put together basically on the premise from a report from The Athletic saying Brooklyn's ready to do this. They're ready to give up Karis LeVert, Joe Harris, 4 future first-round picks, which they can do, and 3 future pick swaps. The Nets have the ammunition to pull this off if they want to do it. That's enticing to me if I'm Houston. I get 2 young guys who can really score in LeVert and Harris and a ton of draft capital. I know draft picks aren't worth everything in the NBA, but you get 3 future swaps as well. You'll get the better draft pick. That's very, very enticing if I am the Brooklyn Nets. Now, the Philadelphia 76ers are the next team to talk about here because obviously, again, it's down to Brooklyn and it's down to Philadelphia as well. They're linked to Harden. Why? Well, they've got Daryl Morey basically running their basketball operations now. I know Elton Brand's technically the GM, but we know Morey's calling the shots. And to get a guy in there like James Harden to pair with Joel Embiid, who's having really an MVP start to this season, That's very enticing for that organization and for Doc Rivers, who's doing a nice job with this team this year. Matisse Thybulle has been connected to Houston now as the trade rumors have developed over the last few months. Also Tyrese Maxey, so keep that in mind as well. Ben Simmons, I think, would have to be a centerpiece in this trade. That would be the Sixers' pitch, whereas Brooklyn's not going to give you a young superstar. Philadelphia can. Philadelphia can give you a guy like Ben Simmons if they choose to do so. So I think a trade would look something like this. Harden to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons, Tyrese Maxey, and a first-round pick. I don't think you're going to get multiple. Ben Simmons is under the age of 25, and he's a top 20 player, top 25 player in the NBA. Like, that's a really good asset. So you throw in a first on top of that, and Maxey, who has potential as a really solid two-way type of player, a guy who really defends and can shoot the basketball. That's a pretty good offer as well. Obviously not the volume of what Brooklyn's offering, but by far the best player that either team would offer in Ben Simmons. Now, I think this one's still fairly obvious, but I'm curious what you guys think, the audience, on this one. Who is the better player right now? Is it James Harden or is it Ben Simmons? Type BS for Ben Simmons, type JH for James Harden. I still think it's Harden. I know he's overweight and all that stuff, but that's because he's not motivated to play with Houston. I think 3-4 weeks down the road, he'd be back in shape and ready to rock for the Nets. But let me know, better player today in the NBA. Now, you want to get subscribed to Chat Sports because, hey, we are keeping you guys up to the latest on all of the NBA trade rumors, news, rumors, and everything else in the association. We've had more NFL videos recently, but I promise you, if a trade goes down of this magnitude, we will break it down for you guys here on youtube.com/chatsportstv. And by the way, I mentioned the NFL. We do a ton of NFL coverage as well. We do it all at Chat Sports. Hit that big red button and subscribe. Maybe this is the first time you've watched this before. This is a little bit of a taste of what you can expect on our typical videos. So to just kind of circle back around and just give some final thoughts here. The James Harden Rockets era, I'm not going to call it a flat-out failure, but you can't call it a success. The amount of draft capital that this team traded to try and win a championship and to not even make a finals, that's disappointing. Obviously, the D'Antoni thing had some highs, but it had some lows, and he's gone. Daryl Morey, no longer with the organization. Chris Paul and James Harden had a good run. Chris Paul got traded. Brought in his former teammate Westbrook. He wanted out. At the end of the day, James Harden is an elite player, but he can't be the number one on a team to win a title. That's why that trade to Brooklyn, KD can be the top guy. That is very, very intriguing to me, especially if I'm the Brooklyn Nets. So, we'll ask you one more time. What is the better fit for James Harden? Type BKN for the Nets. Type PHI for the 76ers. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. I like this Nets idea a little bit more. That's just my opinion. The familiarity with KD, I think that makes a whole lot of sense. So I'm going to type my BKN. But leave your votes down below, and we'll see you very soon.